I was born in BC.
The West Island of Montreal in Quebec.
Vancouver, British Columbia.
Montreal.
Well, my dad's lived here for almost 10 years, so I come and visit.
11 years.
Been in since September, but my brother has lived in Montreal since 2008.
I see no need for it at all, as it's going to affect
And why
a
is
lot.
that?
Oh, sorry. It affects other things, like trade with the other provinces, especially our eastern provinces.
No,
Why not?
because it's stupid and we shouldn't separate, so why should we even ask the question?
No, I feel present-day Quebec would suffer without modern Canada, and modern Canada would suffer without present Quebec.
Not really, that's my opinion. Mostly because I guess my parents have never wanted it, and I've been growing up in that kind of like circle.
I feel like it furthered the French-English divide with language laws.
I'd say further. Do you want me to expand?
Expand on that.
Well, because obviously there are people that want to separate and people that didn't, so it caused problems.
Further the French-English divide, and further separate them from Western Canada especially.
I think it brought them further because I guess if I elaborate, English and French now I guess dislike each other more.
I haven't really heard much about FLQ presently, but like I consider them like a terrorist group, like everyone else usually does.
Or this like sort of terrorist group back in I think the 70s, who bombed people and who kidnapped and assassinated somebody.
The FLQ I know is a radical group in my opinion, especially for kidnapping in the 70s. I don't really think they're necessary because they were making over political statements for a minor issue, and then the PQ and the Bloc Québécois are there to satisfy the 60s view that Quebec needs to separate from Canada.
Not too much, man.
I don't know really. I guess Ignati, if I can think of someone.
I have no idea.
I would say the NDP because they hold a majority of the seats in Quebec and they represent Quebec to the best of their ability. I think the PQ offers a limited view of Quebec and an intolerant view in my opinion.
It's definitely the language and the culture. It's like I find it's more rural than any province. It's definitely more rural than where I'm from. So the cities aren't as big. Like especially with Sherbrooke, it's not a very big city. But definitely the language too. Yeah.
Language, nice.
The language and certain laws that they have that nobody else has.
I think you could argue that Quebec is distinct because of the language and culture, but then you could also argue that English Canada is distinct because of the language and culture. So I really think the distinct society designation isn't proper, especially in a multicultural Canada.
The fact that you can speak French here,
Anything else?
that's it.
That's actually funny because I don't view Quebec I think all provinces are distinct. So we all have different things we bring. So you can't just say Quebec's distinct.
You would say Quebec's no more distinct than Ontario
Alberta or
Alberta.
anyone else. Yeah.
Yes.
That's it right now. Quebec doesn't participate in federal programs. French is the main language. English is the second language here, and also they really think Ottawa doesn't represent them, and it's Quebec City that needs to represent them.
Yes, because we have our own taxes, and I guess we try to make ourselves look like a distinct country even though we're not.
It's crucial. It'd be good to know French, but the issue is that that's not the way of the rest of Canada and North America is working. It's prominently English, just like everywhere else in the world is prominently English. So.
Well, I'd say very crucial because it's pretty much the only thing that's really different.
If Quebec was bilingual, do you think it would lose a little bit of its distinct nature?
No, it would just be more inclusive, more accepting of others, which would be good.
I think it's important, and it should be, put in, but not forced.
Well, I think it's to remember where they came from, to remember their roots.
It's actually interesting because nobody actually knows why that's the quote, the actual quote for Quebec. nobody remembers actually where it came from, which is actually pretty funny. So.
They have Canadian moments, so of course national moments and things like that, but they also have individual crisis, like the college technique shootings in Montreal. That was a Quebec issue that happened here, but it was a national issue too, and how Quebec dealt with that. And then also just the referendums in history.
I don't know. To be honest,
What do Quebecers have to remember?
I guess that it was a French nation before, and we should keep it French for them.
I definitely think je m'aime CVS.
Oh, definitely La Belle Province.
The Belle Province, I'd say.
I think La Belle Province would be better,
Why is that?
because I guess it just shows, like, you know, it's a nice province, and like, because it's French, at least it shows, you know, there's the roots in there, and you know, it doesn't force you to be like, okay, je me souviens, like, what do we remember? Like, people are intrigued and like, they're like, what's going on here?
That's hard because I'm not an immigrant, but I've never really seen integration myself as an English person when I was visiting my dad, who's also English, is hard. Like it's you feel bad talking to someone in English because like they almost look insulted. So I can't imagine how an immigrant would feel.
They're not welcomed. You have to speak French, I think, to be able to come here. So there aren't any of those.
I think they divide it, especially the stereotype that if you're not French speaking, tough luck, we'll discriminate against you. Even if you're a Canadian citizen, you're considered second class in Quebec if you don't speak French.
I think it's just like any other person, you know, there's jobs for like French and English people here. I think if you're coming from an outside country and then you don't learn French and you don't know French, it's a disadvantage, of course. But I think learning French still in Quebec is important. In schools and stuff, you should.
Like the fleur de lis, like with that.
French, poutine, maple syrup, lumberjacks, ugly tattoos, fat people. That's about it.
The Quebec flag and how that's prominent everywhere, even less than the Canadian flag. And then also bilingualism, because nowhere else in the country do you have French and English signs unless it's required by the federal government.